Good. Welcome to the Post Op Podcast presented by Mallyway. It's your boy Malik. Thanks for tuning in. So I hope everybody's staying safe, washing their hands, practicing social distancing. I know it's tough out there. For me personally, I'm trying to go to the gym. Every gym seems like they're closed. I don't really have the equipment to do it from home, but yeah, I'll manage, man. We all got to go through this, and hopefully we flatten the curve. But yeah, man, about the NBA, people are kind of running out of contents. I'm seeing a lot of videos out there, and I had to release this just to get your opinion on things. I mean, this video is about the top 10 NBA Finals run in the last decade. So that's from 2010 to 2019. And the reason I put out this video is because I'm seeing a lot of comments out there on other videos. People are talking about the best team in the last decade. And obviously, I'm not going to get into that because, if Kevin Durant is going to join a 73-9 team, then of course, they're probably going to be the best team in the last decade. That team was just stacked. But I'm talking about the top 10 NBA Finals run. So specifically, the top 10 NBA championship run. So who had a more impressive championship run? And some of the criteria that I'm looking at, obviously, people are gonna have their own opinions. So obviously, if you disagree, leave a comment. This is what it's about. But the criteria that I'm looking at is obviously their run through their respective conference, strength of opponent, the front office, and the job that they did, and pretty much normal playoff attrition, injuries, the amount of star power, things like that, right? So let's get into it. Let's try to rip through them. So basically, at the 10th spot, I got the 2017 Golden State Warriors championship run. So this is pretty self-explanatory. The reason why they're at the 10th spot is because that's the year that Kevin Durant decided to bounce from OKC, join the 73-9, number one seed in the West, Golden State Warriors. So of course they're going to be a juggernaut. Who's going to beat that team? They pretty much went into the finals. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, 4-1. Kevin Durant was the MVP. It was his first chip. But I mean, even Kevin Durant knows that wasn't, that was a wash. As much as he wants to fight it, there's a reason why you have a burner account. There's a reason why you keep responding to people about these two championships. It's you got it the easy way, man. That's the truth. The truth is you got it the easy way. And it's not like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, joining a good team. But what I'm saying is a team that's already won a championship, you're going to bounce. And plus, you almost beat them the previous year. You're going to bounce from your old team and go join that team and make it that there's zero competition, that it's easy to win a championship. That's not what sports is about, right? If you want respect, you gotta beat people. You gotta beat people that are on your level, basically. And it's hard to say that any team in the league was on the Golden State Warriors' level because you just elevated the level tenfold by going to the Warriors. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. They had a good run. The run through the Western Conference was pretty easy. They were the first team that pretty much went 12-0. So basically, they never lost during the playoffs until they got to the finals when they lost that one game, and it was a gentleman's sweep. So that team almost went literally 16-0. That would have been ridiculous in basketball to go 16-0. That would have been, they went 16-1 ultimately, but they could have swept the Cavs. That's how dominant they were. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that one. Number 9 on the list is the 2018 Golden State Warriors. That championship run. So that was the very next year. Kevin Durant obviously was in full form. He had the monkey off his back. He won his first chip. So that year was easy for him to go through. They faced the Cavaliers again in 2018, and in that time they did sweep them 4-0. Kevin Durant again was the MVP, and I put that one on number 9. Simply because it was a little tougher road for them, right? That's the year where in the Western Conference Finals, they were up. They pretty much beat the Rockets 4-3. The Rockets had been loading to specifically beat the Warriors. Daryl Morey, their GM, was saying he was obsessed with the Warriors. So the Rockets pretty much did everything they could. They brought Chris Paul. They brought Trevor Ariza. They had shooting. They were playing small ball. They were trying everything to beat the Warriors. And then they almost did. Chris Paul got injured in Game 7, but At the end of the day, the Warriors were just too much firepower, and then they go into the finals and they just sweep the Cavs. So that's why they're number 9 on the list. Number 8 on the list, the Lakers. So that's the oldest one. That's the 2010 finals. So I don't know if people remember. That was the Lakers against Celtics. That was Kobe, the late great Kobe's final championship. So basically, that team, it was a good finals. It's the finals game, or the games in the finals, were actually rugged. It was a defensive battle. Um, the Lakers won 4-3, and they had to win the last two because they literally lost one in Boston, and then they had to win Game 6 in Boston, and then Game 7 in LA. Or sorry, they had to win game. If I remember correctly, they won Game 5 in Boston, and then they beat the Celtics Game 6 and Game 7 in LA, because at that time they had the 2-3-2 format. So that's pretty much the team with the best record had the first 2 games, and then the other team had the next 3 games, and then the team with the best record had the final 2 games. I didn't really like that format, but good thing they changed it in 2014. But yeah, people were arguing it kind of gives the lesser team, or the team with the lesser record, a little bit of an advantage, because all they got to do is win one, and then they have 3 straight games at home. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, the Lakers won that one. Yeah, so I have that one. I have that one 8 on the list, simply because it was the last run. The East was kind of beat up. The Celtics, the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, they came off knee surgery, and then they just kind of won based on championship experience. They beat the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals 4-2. And then the Lakers beat who? The Suns. The Suns were also depleted. It was Phoenix. It was Steve Nash's last year, Stoudemire's last year in Phoenix, and yeah, they beat the Suns 4-2. So to me, it wasn't an impressive championship run. It was just a rematch that everybody wanted to see, and it was a good finals. But I think it deserves to be 8 on the list. And then 7th on the list, we got the 2012 NBA Finals. So that was the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's LeBron's first championship. That was a good run. That was a really good run. That was a lockout year, so they only played 66 games. And yeah, Miami did their thing, and they defeated the OKC Thunder 4-1. It seems pretty easy, but it was 4 straight close games, and then Game 5, obviously the Heat just dominated that last game, but they were more experienced than the Thunder, right? The Thunder that's when we talk about Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook being young, up and coming. So they did a good job. So congrats to LeBron for a championship. But this is gonna be 7th on the list, simply because it's that's a big 3 that was formed. Obviously, you kind of like shift the balance of power. So you're gonna have to deal with the repercussions. And then number 6, we got the 2016 NBA Finals, the epic Game 7. So that was the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the Golden State Warriors 4-3. LeBron James was Finals MVP. So basically that, I would have put that number 5, but the reason that I had to put it number 6 is because the Cavs, as great as a comeback that they did there in the finals, their run to get to the finals was pretty soft. I mean, I hate to say it, but the East was mad weak that year. The second seed, Cavs were number 1 seed. Second seed was the Toronto Raptors, and then the Heat. But the Heat didn't have Bosh, because Bosh was dealing with blood clot issues. So basically, the Miami Heat had nothing in their way. Basically, they swept the Detroit Pistons in the first round, swept the Atlanta Hawks in the second round, and then Toronto. Toronto's a team that they were bullying before, but then Toronto kind of stepped up that year. They won 2 games at home, and then after that it was pretty much another blowout, two other blowouts in Cleveland. Or sorry, 1 blowout in Cleveland and then 1 blowout in Toronto. Well, I don't know. The game, I guess Game 6 wasn't a blowout, but it felt like a blowout. It felt like the Raptors didn't really have a chance to beat the Cavs. But yeah, so like I said, I have to look at the strength of opponent. So they made it to the finals, and then that was the epic series, because they were facing the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. They were, coming back with a vengeance. They won their first championship the previous year, so they just wanted to prove to everybody that it wasn't a fluke. These guys were, they were ready to roll. They added David West. They were ready to go. They were ready to go. And then they were up 3-1 on the Cavs. And then, game five, there was a suspension, obviously, Draymond Green. And then the rest is history. The Cavs beat them. And it was one of the best finals ever. Circumstance matters, obviously. It was Cleveland's first championship in all major sports for like 50 years. So it was good. It was good. Blessings to that. And then, number five, I have the 2013 championship run. So that was the Miami Heat. That was LeBron's second championship. LeBron pretty much faced the San Antonio Spurs. And that was another epic series in the finals. Obviously, a lot of the Spurs were probably supposed to win that series. If you guys watch Game Six, the epic Game Six, where Bosh actually grabbed that rebound out of nowhere, passed it to Ray Allen, clutch three, and then it goes to Game Seven, and then LeBron has an amazing performance, 37 points in Game Seven. So basically, that had to be high on the list. So it was the number five. And the road to the finals wasn't too bad. Miami had I thought that year the East was decent. At least there was top three teams that were decent. There was Miami. There was the New York Knicks. Obviously Carmelo Anthony. That was his best year with the Knicks. I think he had Jr. Who else was on that team? Marcus Camby and those guys. And then there was the Pacers, the up and coming Pacers, right? So the Heat had to beat the Bucks. That was a sweep. And then the Bulls 4-1. I think Derrick Rose was injured. And then, they went on to go to Game 7 in the conference finals, Game 7 against the Indiana Pacers. That's where LeBron was going toe-to-toe with Paul George. And, it was a good series, They made it to the finals. And, they pretty much took on an experienced veteran San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, young Kawhi Leonard. So basically, that validated the championship status for LeBron James, because the year before, some people would have said, it was a shortened season, blah, blah, blah. But, LeBron got his second ring. And then number four on the list, we got the 2014 NBA Finals. That was the Spurs. That was the very next year when the Spurs wanted their revenge. I put that number four because the Spurs, first of all, the Spurs were an old team. Tim Duncan was dealing with left knee injuries. The Spurs, people were wondering if they could actually win another championship. And, because of the way they lost the last one. And then they completely shifted. That's how Greg Popovich is one of the best coaches in the league. Ball movement was big that year. Guys was hitting threes, from everywhere. I think Danny Green had record, setting 3-pointers in the finals. So that wasn't even close. I think game one, the Spurs won. Game two, Miami won, and then after that, the Spurs won the next three in a blowout fashion. The road to the finals for Miami that year was it was a little easier that year. Again, sweep of the Charlotte Bobcats first round, 4-1 of the Nets, and then they met the Pacers again in the conference finals. But at that point, LeBron just proved to the world that Paul George is not on his level. So basically, they went to the finals, and then they got beat. They got destroyed by the Spurs. So I give it up to the Spurs. Kawhi Leonard was the MVP that year. That was the emergence of Kawhi Leonard. And people were starting to find out who that kid was. And the Spurs, they were an old team, but no big names, no superstardom. They just do their things the right way, right? They listen to the coach, fundamentals, and that was their 5th championship. So congrats to the Spurs. I give mad respect to that one. Number 3 on the list. This is gonna shock people, but number 3 on the list is the 2015 championship run. This is the baby Golden State Warriors. That's when they were new on the scene. Nobody knew about them. Steve Kerr, that was his first year. He replaced Mark Jackson, and then he took the Warriors to a record-setting year, 67 wins, 15 losses, number 1 seed in the West. Who would have thought? Like nobody thought. At that point, people were thinking Steph Curry was soft. He kept rolling his ankles in the past. Charles Barkley kept saying, jump shooting teams can't win a championship. And, to be honest, they got some help. Obviously, guys got hurt, but, I don't hold that against no one. Winning a championship is hard. There's guys like LeBron and, they pretty much leave their team and go join super teams to win a championship, right? That tells you how hard it is. So I'm not going to discredit a team that's trying, everything they can to win a championship. If a couple guys are injured, not to be harsh, but that's part of the game. It's part of the game. So yeah, the Warriors, it was a soft jump shooting team, and they pretty much swept the New Orleans Pelicans in the first round. And they had Anthony Davis, right? They had a 7 feet shot blocker. Anthony Davis, could drop 20 to 25 points a game. So these guys, little jump shooters like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson beat the Pelicans. That's impressive, right? Even though they were the first seed, that's impressive. They swept them. And then they pretty much beat the Memphis Grizzlies 4-2. Obviously, the Memphis Grizzlies didn't have Mike Conley. And I forgot to mention with the Pelicans, they didn't have Drew Holiday, so that's what people were complaining about. Yeah, but with the Grizzlies, they didn't have Mike Conley. But again, the Grizzlies had they were a tough, granted team. They had Marc Gasol. They had what's his name, Tony Allen. They had Zach Randolph, Zebo. So again, nobody gave the Warriors a shot, even though they were number one seed. People are like, the Warriors are probably too soft. We've never seen them do it yet. And then they ended up winning, right? They proved that shooting threes can prevail. And then in conference finals, they faced the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets, James Harden. Obviously, they had Trevor Ariza. They had Dwight Howard. So these guys, the Rockets, they should have went to the finals that year because they had veterans that have been to the finals before. And yeah, they pretty much got beat 4-1. That wasn't even close. They got beat by the Golden State Warriors. So again, people want to talk. People want to talk smack. They went to the finals. Obviously, LeBron just went, just breezed through the East again that year. Who was his competition? The 60-win Atlanta Hawks. That was a joke, right? The Toronto Raptors. That was a joke. And yeah, LeBron just, their only competition was the Bulls. And then that went 4-2. LeBron hit a couple game winners. And yeah, boom, the rest is history. So yeah, so basically, they met in the finals, but obviously Kyrie Irving, didn't make it past the first game. He had knee surgery, so he was gone. Kevin Love didn't even play in the finals. So that first championship that the Golden State Warriors won, obviously it was against, the Cavs that didn't have two of their three All-Stars. And yeah, the Warriors did what they had to do. They won a championship. Andre Iguodala was the MVP. Congrats to the Warriors. That was to me, that's an impressive championship run. And that's what this list is about. It's not about it's not about who's the best team on in the last decade. It's about what did you guys do to make it to the finals and actually beat the champions or beat veteran tested guys and earn yourself your first championship. So that's I rate that. Second on the list is the 2011 Dallas Mavericks. Same story. The Dallas Mavericks, they were pretty much looked past. They were number 3 in the West, behind the Spurs and the Lakers. Nobody had the Dallas Mavericks making it to the finals. Obviously, the Dallas Mavericks only had one superstar. It was Dirk Nowitzki. And they were surrounded by a bunch of good role players, man. They had an older Jason Kidd. He was, later in his career. But Jason Kidd was a good veteran. They had Tyson Chandler. The addition of Tyson Chandler was good. J.J. Barea, Caron Butler, Deshaun Stevenson, who hit big shots in the finals. So these guys, they did it, with one superstar, good coaching, and a bunch of role players. And that's what I respect about them. They went through the grind. 2006, they lost to the Heat in 2006. It was both Miami and Dallas's first finals in 2006. And then D Wade just, won that for them, D Wade and Shaq. And then this was the rematch in 2011. And then pretty much Dirk Nowitzki said, I'm not letting this go. I'm going to take this shit. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much how it went. They won 4-2, and they figured out a way to stop the Big Three. Obviously, this was the Big Three. The first year of Wade, Bosh, LeBron in Miami, they were talking shit, saying they were going to win not 7, not 8 championship. But, at the end of the day, chemistry rules, right? That's what it proved. And they did their thing. It was Dirk Nowitzki was the Finals MVP. And it was well earned, man, well earned. And yeah, last but not least, the freshest championship on our mind. I would say the number 1 NBA championship finals run was the 2019 Toronto Raptors, led by Kawhi Leonard. And then people are gonna get on me for that. If you want to say something, leave some comments. I'm happy to jump on it. But I'm going to explain to you why the Raptors had the most impressive championship run in the last decade. Very simple. Number one, the Raptors are probably the most disrespected franchise in the league. Obviously, they're the only franchise that's outside of the United States, and then we know how patriotic the U.S. is. So you're gonna feel it. You're gonna see it in the media. Nobody gives them credit. Everybody wants to discard them. Nobody wants to. It's always a pride thing when teams face the Raptors. It has to be something about the U.S. versus Canada, even though like a lot of the players are American. So it doesn't really matter. I don't know why people always make it a big thing, but at the end of the day, the Raptors most disrespected franchise. I don't think there's an argument there. Number two, the East was probably, or I would say was, the best Eastern Conference, I guess, division that we've seen in the past decade. So basically, from 2010 to 2019, if you look at the Eastern Conference, there was always one, two, at the most three contenders, but really there hasn't been 4 to 5 contenders. I would say in 2019, the East was, you could put, I would say definitely four, but you could definitely, make an argument for 5 contenders in the East. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks that year was killing it, best record in the league, 60-22. The Raptors was second, 58-24, second best record in the league. They had a better, both the teams that I just mentioned, the Bucks and Raptors, they had a better record than the Golden State Warriors in 2019. So people need to stop. People need to give the East some respect that year. And then we had the Philadelphia 76ers. I think that was the most talented team in the East. So just because they're probably one of the most talented teams in the NBA. They were probably behind the Warriors. The Sixers were probably the most talented teams in the NBA because they had Jimmy Butler, they had Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, JJ Redick. They were stacked. And then Tobias Harris and then guys coming off the bench, they were stacked. There's a reason why the Raptors struggled against that team. And then that proves Kawhi's greatness right there. And then the Celtics were a contender, obviously, up and coming Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. These guys weren't playing around. And then, the case that I wanted to make was for the Pacers. Obviously, the Pacers didn't have Oladipo. He got injured. But if Oladipo was there, Pacers were a contender. They took LeBron to Game 7 a couple years before that. So the East was the strongest it's been in the whole decade. The 2019 season was the strongest East. I think there's bar none. We can't even argue that. And then on the West, obviously the West was always strong. Golden State, obviously with Kevin Durant, everybody expected them to just sweep everybody and just win the championship easy that year. So basically, the Raptors came out. Man, they had a bad game one loss against Orlando, but then after that, 4 straight beat Orlando. They go to Philly. Obviously, we know what happened. Game 7, buzzer beater by Kawhi Leonard takes him to the conference finals. Again, I say that the Sixers were the second most talented team in the East that year. A lot of people picked the Sixers, even though a lot of these media people, they don't even watch the Raptors. That's the thing. The Raptors were 58-24. Kawhi Leonard didn't even play a lot of games. I think, what did he miss? 22 games. The Raptors were 17-5 without Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi missed 22 games, and the Raptors were still 58-24. So these analysts, like I said, all they want to talk about is, this team is soft, blah, blah, blah. But of course they're soft. In the past years, the Raptors never had any superstars. If you look at the Raptors had to do everything perfect to win a championship. They had to have a great farm system. They had to fire their coach, Dwayne Casey, bring in another coach, unproven, and then obviously he was with the organization for a long time, but he proved to be a genius offensively, and he's not afraid to make changes and to take risks defensively. So they had that going for them. The Warriors, if you look at the Warriors pretty much beat the Clippers. That was tough series in the first round. They beat the Houston Rockets. Kevin Durant couldn't play for a few of these games. I don't remember when exactly. And then in the conference finals, they didn't even have Kevin Durant. And then they swept the Portland Trailblazers. So think about that. The Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant, they sweep the Portland Trailblazers. Everybody praises them. Everybody says, oh, they have 2 Hall of Famers, potentially 3 Hall of Famers with Draymond Green. They had a DeMarcus Cousins. So when everything goes well, nobody's making excuses for the Warriors. But then when shit starts to get tight, everybody wants to make excuses. So they get to the finals. Obviously, they don't have Kevin Durant. Now, mind you, you can't discredit this finals run because you don't have Kevin Durant. The Warriors won a championship without Kevin Durant. That's what people seem to forget. That's what the media doesn't talk about. The Warriors won a championship without Kevin Durant, and that team was there. if I remember correctly, game one, everybody was there on the Warriors team. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, they were all there. And Kevin Durant just makes it unfair and makes it like, there's no competition if Kevin Durant is playing. And even then, people are acting like they haven't seen the regular season. Mind you, the Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant twice in the regular season. So it's not like the Raptors never beat the Warriors with Kevin Durant. They beat them twice in the regular season with Kevin Durant. And the Raptors never lost in Oracle Arena. They beat the Golden State Warriors 4 straight times in their own building. So twice in the regular season, and actually 5 straight times. 4. I was right the first time. So once in the regular season and 3 straight times in the playoffs. So they never lost in Golden State, and they beat Kevin Durant twice in the regular season. So a lot of things like that people don't talk about. People are saying in the regular season is this, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, this was a different Raptors team. This is a Raptors team with Kawhi Leonard. And then I watched both these games against Kevin Durant in the regular season. Both teams was going at it. First game went to overtime, and Kawhi had some huge defensive plays. And the one thing that people don't mention as well is that we had OG Anunoby. And again, the media, the people out there, if you don't watch the Raptors, you're going to be like, who the hell is OG Anunoby? You guys are going to act like this is, I shouldn't even be mentioning OG Anunoby. But if you think about it, the Raptors were hurt in the finals too. People are out here talking about, first of all, it's a game of attrition. When you get to the finals, we're all hurt. Everybody's hurt. One side, the Raptors side, everybody's hurt. Golden State Warriors side, people are, might have, nicks and stuff like that. And at the end, it's a game of attrition. So if stuff happens during the finals, you can't act like this is, this is an advantage, because Kyle Lowry needed surgery on his thumb. Kawhi Leonard was dealing with, tendinopathy in his knees. We all know that he was limping around the Milwaukee series. And the Raptors didn't have OG Anunoby, who's a 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", over 200-pound wing, 3-and-D guy. Kevin Durant even mentioned him in one of the podcasts, saying this guy, has potential. He's not going to name just a nobody if he doesn't think he's good, right? OG Anunoby would have relieved the defensive pressure. I believe even in the 76ers series, if we had OG Anunoby, Kawhi Leonard wouldn't have had to work so hard defensively to guard Jimmy Butler and drop 41 points in Game 7. So people have to think about that. OG Anunoby could have, at least slowed down, Klay or, KD, one or the two, if they were there. But Klay was definitely there Game 1. The Raptors just beat them easily. Well, not easily, but, it was a convincing win Game 1. Game 2, Klay, ended up leaving at the end. But that's his own fault. He tried to flop to get a 3. What do you want me to do? At the end of the day, that happened during the finals. It's not like Klay wasn't available, right? He was playing in the finals. He tried a cheat move, tried to get a leg kick to get a 3-point play, and it didn't work. He hurt himself. He came back. He missed Game 3. That's the game Danny Green just was lighting it up in threes. And then Game 4, Klay came back, and pretty much they still lost. The Raptors still beat their ass in Golden State. So I don't understand what these guys like Steven is out there saying that, they believe that if Klay Thompson was healthy, the Golden State Warriors would have beaten the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors proven all season that they're better than the Warriors. The only reason that the Warriors would have won is if they had Kevin Durant, and that's still a maybe. We don't know. That's a hypothetical. The Raptors definitely proved that, they had a mountain to climb. They had to deal with their own injuries. They ended up, winning the first championship for the only team out of the U.S., out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it was a great run. But, let me know what you think, man. I know this is going to cause a lot of debate. This is my top 10, NBA championship runs in the last decade. And, make sure you leave a comment. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. You can find the podcast on Spotify, on Anchor. But, let me know what you think, man. It's going to be interesting. Until next time.